Team 26 of 52 teams of 8. Help make America wiser and kinder with antique rival wisdom team quotes that have passed the test of time to make humanity great with words of wisdom to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. Give your kids free easy extra advantage math, spelling, and reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com. Free easy math wisdom workbooks with Octo-Repetition to grow math self-confidence. Free easy alpha Cypher-coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. Team quote 26.1. Friends and acquaintances are the surest passport to fortune. Arthur Schopenhauer, 1788 to 1860. Let me help break down this insightful observation from Schopenhauer, the German philosopher known for his pessimistic but penetrating analysis of the human condition. His assertion about the relationship between social connections and success deserves careful examination. The phrase, surest passport to fortune, creates a powerful metaphor worth unpacking. Just as a passport grants access to different territories and opportunities, social connections open doors to possibilities that might otherwise remain closed. The word surest is particularly significant. Schopenhauer isn't claiming this is the only path to success, but rather that it's the most reliable one. To understand why this holds true, we should consider how social networks function. When we have friends and acquaintances across different spheres, we gain access to several crucial advantages. First, we receive information about opportunities that might not be publicly available. Second, we benefit from recommendations and introductions that carry more weight than cold contacts. Third, we can draw on diverse perspectives and expertise when facing challenges. The distinction between friends and acquaintances is also meaningful. By including both categories, Schopenhauer acknowledges that we benefit from both deep, strong relationships, friends, and broader, more casual connections, acquaintances. Modern sociological research, particularly Mark Granovetter's work on the strength of weak ties, has confirmed that acquaintances often prove especially valuable for career advancement because they connect us to different social circles than our close friends. In Schopenhauer's time, 1788 to 1860, this observation was particularly relevant as society was heavily structured around social classes and formal introductions. However, the principle remains remarkably applicable today. In our modern networked world, professional success often depends as much on who you know as what you know. This isn't merely about nepotism or favoritism. Social connections facilitate the flow of knowledge, create opportunities for collaboration, and build the trust necessary for meaningful professional relationships. To better understand this concept, consider how different types of social connections might function as passports in various contexts. Professional sphere. Colleagues can recommend you for positions or alert you to opportunities before they're publicly posted. Educational realm. Fellow students and teachers can share resources and insights that enhance learning. Creative fields. Artists and writers often find opportunities through their connections with other creators. Entrepreneurial ventures. Initial customers and investors frequently come from one's existing social network. Would you like to explore how this principle might be applied ethically and effectively in today's professional landscape? Or shall we examine how different cultures and time periods have viewed the relationship between social connections and success? Team quote 26.2. Creditors have better memories than debtors. Benjamin Franklin, 1706 to 1790. Let me help unpack this shrewd observation from Benjamin Franklin, one of America's founding fathers and a remarkably astute observer of human nature. This quote, like many of Franklin's sayings, reveals deep insights about human psychology and financial relationships. At first glance, this appears to be a simple observation about memory, but it actually illuminates something fundamental about human nature and the psychology of debt. To understand why this holds true, we need to examine how debt affects both parties in different ways. For creditors, lending money creates a state of constant awareness. When they've parted with their funds, that absence serves as a continuous reminder of what they're owed. Think of it like a missing tooth. Your tongue keeps finding its way to that empty space. The creditor experiences a kind of psychological tension until the debt is repaid, making the memory of the loan persistently present in their mind. For debtors, however, psychological defense mechanisms often come into play. Having received money and spent it, they might unconsciously prefer not to dwell on their obligation. The human mind often employs selective memory when confronted with uncomfortable responsibilities. Just as we might forget about an unpleasant task we need to complete, debtors might find their memory of debt obligations becoming conveniently hazy. Franklin's observation was particularly relevant in his time when lending was often personal rather than institutional. In 18th-century America, many loans occurred between individuals rather than through banks. This personal nature of lending made the psychology of debt even more pronounced. It wasn't just about money, but about relationships and reputation within the community. The principle extends beyond purely financial relationships. Consider how this same dynamic plays out in other forms of obligation. When someone owes us a favor, we tend to remember it clearly, while we might be hazier about favors we owe to others. This suggests that Franklin's insight taps into a broader truth about human nature and reciprocity. This asymmetry in memory also helps explain why clear documentation of debts has been so important throughout history. From ancient Mesopotamian clay tablets to modern digital contracts, societies have developed ways to ensure that debts aren't subject to the vagaries of human memory. These systems serve as external memory aids that help prevent disputes arising from these natural differences in recall. Team quote 26.3. Knowledge is power. Francis Bacon, 1561–1626. Let me help explore this profound statement from Francis Bacon, the English philosopher and statesman who helped establish the scientific method. While these three words might seem simple, they contain deep insights about the nature of both knowledge and power that remain highly relevant today. To understand the statement fully, we should first consider what Bacon meant by knowledge. As one of the pioneers of empirical thinking, Bacon advocated for knowledge based on careful observation and systematic understanding rather than mere acceptance of traditional authorities. He believed in knowledge that could be tested, verified, and applied to solve real-world problems. The concept of power, in this context, goes beyond simple political or physical force. Bacon was suggesting that understanding how things work gives us the ability to influence and shape our world. Think of how understanding the principles of physics allows us to build bridges, or how knowledge of biology enables us to treat diseases. Each piece of knowledge becomes a tool that expands our capabilities. This relationship between knowledge and power worked on multiple levels in Bacon's time. During the scientific revolution of the 16th and 17th centuries, new discoveries were transforming society's understanding of the natural world. Those who possessed this new knowledge, from astronomical observations to medical insights, gained significant advantages over those who didn't. This was particularly true in fields like navigation, where better knowledge of astronomy and mathematics gave nations considerable economic and military advantages. The principle extends far beyond scientific knowledge. Understanding social systems, human psychology, or economic principles can provide different kinds of power: the power to persuade, to predict market trends, or to navigate complex social situations. In our modern information age, this relationship between knowledge and power has become even more pronounced. Those who understand how to gather, analyze, and apply information often have significant advantages in various fields. However, it's important to note that Bacon's statement works in both directions. Not only does knowledge give power, but power often controls access to knowledge. Throughout history, powerful groups have sometimes restricted access to knowledge to maintain their position. This adds another layer to our understanding of why knowledge is so crucial for personal and social empowerment. Consider how this principle manifests in everyday life. A consumer who knows their rights is better equipped to deal with businesses. A citizen who understands political processes can participate more effectively in democracy. A student who grasps fundamental principles can more easily master advanced concepts. In each case, knowledge becomes a form of power that enables more effective action. Team quote 26.4. Those who stand for nothing fall for anything. Alexander Hamilton, 1757–1804. Let me help explore this profound observation from Alexander Hamilton, one of America's founding fathers and first Secretary of the Treasury. This statement speaks to the fundamental importance of having clear principles and convictions, and it deserves careful analysis to understand its full implications. The metaphor Hamilton uses here is quite revealing. By comparing moral and intellectual conviction to the physical act of standing, he creates a powerful image of stability versus instability. Just as a person needs a stable stance to avoid being pushed over, our minds need stable principles to avoid being swayed by every passing idea or influence. To understand this better, let's consider what it means to stand for something. This involves having well-reasoned beliefs and values that you've thought through carefully and are willing to defend. These aren't just casual opinions, but deeply held convictions based on careful consideration and often hard-won experience. When Hamilton talks about standing, he's referring to this kind of principled position. The second part of the statement, fall for anything, is equally significant. The word fall works on multiple levels here. Physically, falling represents a loss of stability. Intellectually, falling for something suggests being deceived or too easily convinced. The connection Hamilton draws is crucial. Without stable principles to guide our judgment, we become vulnerable to manipulation, deception, and poor decision-making. This idea was particularly relevant in Hamilton's time during the American Revolution and the early years of the Republic. Leaders needed to make difficult decisions about governance, liberty, and the future of a nation. Those without clear principles might be swayed by whatever argument seemed most persuasive in the moment, rather than maintaining a consistent vision based on well-reasoned beliefs. The same principle applies powerfully today. In our modern world, we're constantly bombarded with information, arguments, and attempts to influence our thinking. Those who haven't developed strong, well-reasoned principles might find themselves adopting whatever viewpoint was presented most recently or most convincingly, regardless of its actual merit. Consider how this plays out in various contexts. In business, a leader without clear principles might change strategies based on every new trend. In personal life, someone without strong values might be easily influenced by peer pressure. In politics, a voter without well-developed principles might be swayed by whatever emotional appeal they heard last. This quote also implies something important about the relationship between critical thinking and personal values. Having strong principles doesn't mean being closed-minded, rather, it means having a stable framework through which to evaluate new ideas. Think of it like a filter. Your principles help you assess new information and arguments, separating what aligns with your carefully considered values from what doesn't. Team quote 26.5. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Leonardo da Vinci 1452–1519. That's a profound quote that captures one of Leonardo da Vinci's core philosophical principles. Let me share some context that helps reveal its deeper meaning. During the Renaissance period when da Vinci lived, there was actually a strong tendency toward complexity and ornamentation in art, engineering, and thinking. Many scholars and artists believed that sophistication came from adding more elaborate details and complications. But da Vinci took a radically different approach. Through his work as an artist, scientist, and inventor, da Vinci discovered that the most elegant solutions often emerged from reducing things to their essential elements. When he studied anatomy, he found that nature itself operated on principles of efficient simplicity. The way muscles and tendons work together, for instance, represents an optimal design with no wasted elements. This philosophy manifested in his art as well. In the Mona Lisa, for example, he used a technique called sfumato, allowing colors to shade gradually into one another without harsh lines. This simple approach created an extraordinarily sophisticated effect that has captivated viewers for centuries. The quote also reflects da Vinci's scientific method. He believed that to truly understand something, you needed to strip away complications and find the basic principles at work. This approach led him to groundbreaking insights in fields from fluid dynamics to optics. What makes this quote particularly interesting is how it continues to resonate across disciplines today. In modern design, we see it reflected in the minimalist aesthetic pioneered by companies like Apple. In physics, Einstein echoed a similar sentiment when he said, "Everything should be made as simple as possible, but no simpler." Team quote 26.6. To teach is to learn twice. Joseph Joubert 1754–1824. This insightful quote from Joseph Joubert, the French moralist and essayist, captures a fundamental truth about the nature of learning and instruction that cognitive science has since validated. When we teach something, we engage in what educators call elaborative rehearsal. We don't simply repeat information, but rather process it more deeply in order to explain it to others. This cognitive process requires us to, first, organize our own understanding more systematically. To teach effectively, we must break down complex ideas into digestible components and arrange them in a logical sequence. This organization often reveals gaps in our own knowledge that we might not have noticed before. Second, translate abstract concepts into concrete terms that others can grasp. This translation process deepens our mastery because we must understand something well enough to express it in multiple ways. For instance, a mathematics teacher might need to explain a concept algebraically, geometrically, and through real-world applications. Third, anticipate questions and potential misconceptions. This anticipation forces us to examine the subject matter from different angles and strengthen our grasp of foundational principles. When students ask unexpected questions, we often discover new perspectives we hadn't considered. Fourth, articulate connections between different aspects of the subject matter. Teaching requires us to make explicit the relationships between concepts that we might have previously understood only implicitly. This verbalization strengthens our own mental models. What makes Joubert's observation particularly profound is that it recognizes teaching as not just a transmission of knowledge, but as a transformative process for the teacher. Every time we explain something to another person, we're essentially relearning it ourselves at a deeper level. Team quote 26.7. I'd like to grow very old as slowly as possible. Charles Lamb 1775 to 1834. This poignant quote from Charles Lamb, the English essayist and poet, captures a profound perspective on aging that's worth examining deeply. Let's unpack its layers of meaning and relevance. The quote cleverly turns the common wish for longevity into something more nuanced. Rather than simply wanting to live to an advanced age, Lamb expresses a desire for the quality of the aging process itself. The phrase, as slowly as possible, suggests an appreciation for life's journey rather than just its duration. This perspective aligns with modern research on aging and well-being. Gerontologists have found that what we might call slow aging involves maintaining physical and mental vitality, continuing to engage with life, and preserving our capacity for new experiences. It's not about preventing aging, which is impossible, but about aging well. Lamb's own life adds interesting context to this quote. As someone who faced significant personal challenges, including caring for his mentally ill sister Mary for much of his adult life, he understood the importance of finding joy and meaning in daily existence. His essays, published under the pseudonym Elia, often celebrated the small pleasures and quiet moments that make life rich and full. The quote also suggests a kind of mindfulness before that concept became popular. When we age, slowly, we're more likely to notice and appreciate life's details. The changing seasons, the growth of children, the evolution of our relationships. This connects to contemporary research showing that mindful awareness can actually influence our subjective experience of time, making our lives feel fuller and richer. Let's consider what growing old slowly might mean in practical terms. It could involve maintaining curiosity and continuing to learn throughout life, nurturing relationships that give our days meaning and depth, staying physically active in ways that preserve function and independence, engaging in activities that challenge us mentally and creatively, taking time to reflect on and appreciate our experiences. Team quote 26.8. Cleverness is not wisdom. Euripides 480 BC, 406 BC. This profound observation from Euripides, one of ancient Greece's great tragic playwrights, draws an important distinction that remains deeply relevant today. Let me help unpack its meaning and significance. In ancient Greek thought, cleverness, what they called métis, referred to quick thinking, cunning, and practical intelligence, the ability to solve immediate problems and find creative solutions. Wisdom, or Sophia, on the other hand, encompassed a deeper understanding of life's fundamental truths, ethical principles, and the ability to make sound judgments that consider long-term consequences and moral implications. We can understand this distinction better through an example from one of Euripides' own plays, Medea. The title character displays remarkable cleverness in devising an intricate plan for revenge against her unfaithful husband. Her scheme succeeds perfectly from a tactical perspective, showing great cleverness. However, her actions ultimately bring devastating consequences and reveal a profound lack of wisdom. She achieves her immediate goal but destroys what truly matters in life. This distinction becomes even more relevant in our modern world. Consider the development of social media algorithms. They represent remarkable cleverness in their ability to capture and maintain user attention. But we might question the wisdom of creating systems that, while technically brilliant, potentially undermines social connections and mental well-being. The difference between cleverness and wisdom also appears in the business world. A company might devise clever financial strategies to maximize short-term profits, cleverness, while potentially overlooking the wisdom of building sustainable, ethical business practices that ensure long-term success and social benefit. Understanding this distinction can help us in our personal development. Being clever, quick-witted, and resourceful is certainly valuable, but wisdom requires us to go further, to develop the capacity to see beyond immediate consequences, an understanding of human nature and its complexities, the ability to balance competing interests and values, a sense of ethical responsibility and moral reasoning, the humility to recognize the limits of our knowledge, and to help raise school test scores and self-confidence. You can give your kids free easy extra advantage math, spelling, and reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com or buy at educationstopshate.com. Free easy math wisdom workbooks with Octo-Repetition to grow math self-confidence. You'll get plenty of repetitive practice of age ranges and averages of our 52 teams of 8 quote authors. Free easy alpha Cypher coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. Can you decode the Cypher quote of encouragement using either our learning to spell or just for fun instructions? And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. We offer printed versions and timed videos with background music. Sign up for free weekly emails of 52 teams of antique rival wisdom workbooks with easy math, spelling, and reading practice. And, if you'd like to get paid for sharing our wearable wisdoms, keep this in mind. Everyone I know wears a shirt, and most of us change them daily, so change your shirt and change the world. Social equalities are blatantly subliminal antique positive wisdoms repetitively shared without saying a word. This applies to all our wearable shareable wisdoms, like pretty witty baby onesies and baby tees that you and others will see and read multiple times a day. The same is true with pretty witty kids, but they'll also share these wisdoms with anyone that can read at daycare or school. Youthful truths let your kids gain confidence sharing antique wisdoms with their friends. Imagine them sharing words of wisdom with classmates and teachers. Therefore I think Tees I Wear is a super easy way to share words of wisdom that have passed the test of time. Our social equalities help make us all wiser and kinder with blatantly subliminal messages promoting a more fair and equal opportunity society for all. And don't forget our giftwisdoms.com for birthdays and holidays that makes it easy to share the wisdom with clothing, coffee mugs, and magnets. So do the future a favor by encouraging, educating, and entertaining with words of wisdom that have passed the test of time to make us all wiser and kinder. With wearable wisdoms to fit babies, kids, and adults, you can clothe a whole family, city or state. Join the 52 of 8 today at 52of8.com.